So I'm just going to finish off this little vignette here, and I'm just going back to the basics, and I'll redraw that window. And now what I'm going to do is pay attention to line weight, and this is now the assisted freehand. We did the initial drawing freehand, and putting in all of those elements that are the key to the perspective in here, and just coming over here with the bed. And it's kind of good when you're learning how to draw architecturally is to start creating a reference file for yourself so you can see what these things actually look like and how light actually affects them and what you're actually seeing. So here's my bed. And now as a designer, I'm looking at the height of this thinking, boy, that was overpowering. So I'm just going to drop that down a little bit. And I might just dress up that bed with some bedding, as we kind of had before. And you can go online and just see if there's any bedding that you like. Liked those side tables. And I have to be frank, I'm finding this room pretty pinched as far as space goes. So if that was a problem, I would just expand that a little bit further and make that more wider. And again, going back into this, you can see just how quickly and sketchy I'm going at it, but I'm able to do this because I was very deliberate and very slow building that perspective grid. So I've got my window, and I've got that depth in there. The other thing I did have were some window mullions, and those window mullions, I did those on purpose. I actually started off with the window like this, and I wanted the window mullions to be a quarter, half, quarter, just from a design perspective is what I wanted. So I literally divided it in half, and again divided that in half, and I end up with a quarter where that mullion is, and again a quarter where that mullion is. And where you can see that is in this drawing, my elevation drawing, right back here. And that was exactly what I did. In fact, when I first drew it in plan, when I first drew this window in plan back here, here was the window. I first put a little window mullion right there, and then when I actually drew it in elevation, I kind of thought, ooh, that's ugly. So I thought, well, you know what, let's just see what the quarter looks like on that, and it looked substantially better, and it would actually be a nicer window to look out as well. So I just did this little treatment to that window, and there is my window in elevation freehand. And I get to do the exact same thing here now in perspective. I just find the center point, and once I can find the center point, I can then divide this in half one more time and commit to where that window mullion will be located. And there it is there. And then on the other side, the same thing, draw that X, and then you have your other window mullion. And that is in perspective, acknowledging 1/4, 1/2, 1/4 in terms of proportions. So there's your window through there. And again, study what those windows actually do and look like in perspective. Getting pretty sketchy here. And then that window frame that goes around there. And I'm darkening up this face of, or this edge of that window frame, because it too will stick out from the wall by at least a 1/2 inch. So you want to make sure it looks like that. Now, what happens though if I say to myself, gosh, it'd be really nice to get some drapery in there. And I'm going to do full height drapery off the top of that window. It's going to be located slightly away from that. And I'm just going to hang some drapes here now. And they will hang away from the wall, so I'll need to use my perspective vanishing point to find those. Probably a rod that goes across here, and then there's my other drape that falls to the floor. And here it comes to there. Nice floor to ceiling drapery. Give it some texture. Now, not too much. This is pretty sketchy through here. So I got some nice drapes. I'm now, and I said, boy, we really need some artwork. So, compositionally, how would that art work? Do I want a piece that runs across like that? Is it 3 separate pieces? And you know how to do that by dividing a rectangle into thirds. I could say, okay, there's a piece of art. And there's a piece of art. Now I'm kind of eyeballing those thirds, which is what we did on the first day of classes. Maybe what I want are some pot lights in here too. So in the ceiling, I'm just going to run a little vanishing point there. And directly in the middle of those, I'm going to draw a little ellipse to represent some pot lights that will shine beautifully on the drapery or even on the back wall here. And purposely aligning them in spots that makes sense for the bedroom. That might be a little bit too close here. No, you know what I'm going to do? Not pot lights. I think what I can do is drop above this table here. Maybe a little Jonathan Adler lamp of some kind down through here. And now I'm totally eyeballing ellipses, but where they just have to sort of feel good. And then directly across from here, I'm still working with alignments to make sure that they all work up, vanish through that point and come down. And then I'm starting to get a bedroom that looks a little bit more livable, innable. If you have some trims, like a base trim here, on it goes. Base trim might be through here. This is a proportion thing. Base trims do serve a functional purpose, and that's, again, to hide the goo between the wall face and the floor face through here. And maybe on this wall we have some gorgeous art as well, and I'm kind of a fan of nice big art. This can be our art, and you can kind of represent it with something on there, keeping perspective in mind. And who knows what our floor is? Do we have an area rug? Let's see what we do for an area rug. And I'm working with the grid on the floor, and again with alignments, I decided to come halfway through the table there, and that's what I did. And if it's, maybe it's got some hardwood floor, so I'm just kind of referencing some hardwood, and I'm doing this horizontally, sketching it so that it looks like it's actually coming out a little bit more in depth like that. And then if you want to later, just kind of emphasize tone a little bit more as it comes around. So I'll peel this off now and just see what it is that I've got. But it all started from that very, very basic grid. And there's your perspective vignette, which could use a little cleaning up, but it's getting the point across, and we just designed a space. All right, get to have fun with that.